Okay, so I flew through the night from the communist country that I come from called Canada, just to speak with all you fine folk here today, because we have a catastrophe unfolding all throughout our culture that is affecting the most vulnerable part of our population, and that is our children. Our kids are being indoctrinated to believe that there is such a thing as being born in the wrong body. No one can tell you what that means because it means nothing. These people don't get it, but they essentially believe that we all have a gendered soul, that our body's just some shell, and inside we've got this gendered soul. So depending on which stereotypes you have a natural proclivity towards, if a girl is a tomboy, if she wants to climb trees, play in the dirt, hates wearing dresses, wants to be an engineer when she grows up, these are all apparently characteristics that mean she's really a boy. I tweeted out a video this week from the Boston Children's Hospital, their own video, where they talk about how these kids know essentially from the moment they come out of the womb that they are transgender. They just don't know how to express it. But the Boston Children's Hospital, along with all the other children's hospitals across this nation, including in Illinois, they will start socially transitioning these children at the age of 2 or 3 years old, changing their pronouns, changing their name. Why? According to this gender expert at the Boston Children's Hospital, if a girl tries to pee standing up, that's a sign she's really a boy when she's 2 or 3 years old. If they don't want to get a haircut as a boy, that's a sign that they're really a girl. I wish I was making this stuff up. It's totally insane. But the real problem going on today is affecting girls, especially when they hit middle school or getting into high school. We have a social contagion affecting hundreds of thousands of kids, mostly girls, where they've come to believe that they're born in the wrong body, and the only way they're going to find true happiness is by medically transitioning. And our kids are being given an experimental drug called Lupron. It's a drug that stops their body from going into puberty. It's never been approved by the FDA. Un momento. This drug's never been approved by the FDA for the purpose it's being used. This was a drug given approval to treat prostate cancer in men, endometriosis, and uterine fibroids in women. Same exact drug has historically been given to pedophiles because it chemically castrates them.
But they want to normalize.
We're giving this to children the moment they're hitting puberty. It's called Tanner stage 2 of puberty. This is for girls even before they've had their periods, when their breasts first start to form. So maybe they're 9, 10, 11 years old. They're being given this drug so their bodies don't enter into puberty, because apparently it would be traumatic if their bodies developed. They are then given the opposite sex's hormones. So for girls, they're getting testosterone. For boys, they're given estrogen. After 4 or 5 years on testosterone, what happens to these girls? They have to get hysterectomies. It causes vaginal and uterine atrophy. While they're on these puberty blocking drugs, of course, their breasts don't grow, their hips don't get wider, boys' penises don't grow. This is happening right here in your town. When I checked into the hotel today, the clerk at the front desk, her neighbor, was a 15-year-old girl transitioning. Another woman I talked to here today, her sister's transitioning medically. 2 other members of her family are transitioning. This is the biggest child abuse scandal in modern medicine history, and for some reason we're not allowed to talk about it because just talking about it makes you a bigot. I reject that wholeheartedly. I have 2 girls. They are 10 and 12 years old. When I started my campaign, they were 8 and 10. And the first thing I did, and someone earlier was speaking about what can one person do? Well, one person can do a hell of a lot when you put your mind to it. Back in July of 2020, there's this fabulous woman named Kelly J. Keane, or she's known as Posey Parker in England. And she put up a sign. It was terribly controversial. It was at the Edinburgh train station. And it said, "I love J.K. Rowling," the Harry Potter author. It had a big heart on it. I heart J.K. Rowling. The sign lasted one day because in this dystopian culture we live in, some people on Twitter complained that that was hate speech, and so the government-run train authority took the sign down. I've been learning all about this for the last 7 or 8 months at that point. I was obsessively reading about all of this stuff every night, and I'd had it with this child abuse, and I'd had it with our speech getting canceled. So I worked a little extra, and I put up a big billboard leading into Vancouver, British Columbia, and it said the same thing. I love J.K. Rowling. I tweeted it out on a Friday in September. It went viral, and then it went more viral the next day because it had been paint bombed overnight, and a Vancouver city councillor, a woman named Sarah Kirby-Young, predictably said it was hate speech. And the sign company, run by a billionaire, Christian philanthropist, he's old now, so I don't think he's involved in day-to-day operations, but they took the sign down after one day. I leveraged all the outrage online, and I said, look, if you want to do this in your city, I will help. I'll take all the heat. I'll do all the work. I know a lot of people can't speak about this because they're getting fired from their jobs. And right away, within minutes, about 4 minutes later, a woman who was an executive at a tech firm in Silicon Valley reached out. She sent me a few $1,000s US. I raised a few thousand more, and I put up a big billboard in San Francisco 1 week later. I followed that up with Portland, Los Angeles, all throughout the state of Utah, all throughout the metro in Washington, D.C., and then Times Square. At the end of September, that campaign came to an end. It was a good campaign. I got a lot of hate, but I got a lot of love too. But there was a problem for me in Canada. I can't even put up a sign there now. We only have 2 major sign companies. None of them will work with me. So I said, forget this. I'm not going to let them cancel my speech. If they won't let me put up a billboard, I will simply become a billboard. And so I had some signs made. They said, I love J.K. Rowling. And my other first sign that I had made said, gender ideology does not belong in schools. Because schools are the head of the snake. This is where kids are being indoctrinated by woke teachers. Social media is another huge problem. But if you don't address this in schools, and if you don't get this crap out of our schools, we have millions of children being indoctrinated, and we are graduating millions of true believers every year, who then become the foot soldiers of this movement, who then become the teachers and the counselors and the psychologists, who then become the ones running your HR departments in your corporations. And as we've seen in less than a decade, our entire culture has been permeated by this cult that is harming our children. They are cutting off the breasts of 12-year-old girls. At Kaiser Permanente, a medical clinic in Oakland, California, we have on film a psychiatrist there admitting to cutting off the breasts of a 12-year-old girl for gender purposes. They're castrating 16-year-old boys and creating what they call neo-vaginas, which are just wounds. This gets really grotesque, and I'm not going to get into it all. But what you do need to know is this is not a fringe issue. This is affecting children everywhere. Your kids cannot be on social media because they are at risk, especially your girls. To give you just one example, in the United States right now, there are 42,000 girls raising money on GoFundMe to get their breasts cut off for gender purposes. That's just the ones raising money. A lot of this is covered by insurance. In Washington State now, and your governor here, and your woke politicians here will try to pass the same bill, any 13-year-old now in Washington State can use their parents' insurance to go get puberty blockers, to get opposite-sex hormones, even to get their breasts cut off, without their parents' knowledge or consent. The parents get the bill for the copay, but the procedure or the drugs or hormones have been redacted, so the parents don't even know. So your parental rights are under attack, your children are under attack, so we need to go on the attack. Because playing defense doesn't work. The number one way we go on attack is by having conversations. And I'm an eternal optimist, and I had faith that by having one conversation at a time with people across Canada, that I would eventually reach millions, and it worked. And then when the borders opened up, I started coming down here. I've been attacked, I've had my arm broken, I've been arrested twice, I've been assaulted more than 20 times. But they all just do me a favor when they do that, because every time that happens, I just flip the script and I expose them for what they are, which is a bunch of Neanderthal bullies who think that violence is going to silence us, and it's not going to work. So listen, we're going to win this battle. This is too crazy to last. What we need to do, and I'm on my website, billboardchris.com, in a couple days, I'm going to have 3 different speeches up there. A 1-minute speech, a 2-minute speech, and a 3-minute speech. And I want you parents to go to your school board meetings, make these speeches your own, but I'm going to provide you the template, and go blow up these school board meetings. Give these school board officials hell, because these are our children's lives that are at stake, and it is indoctrination in schools that is leading them to irreversible damage. So we will record these school board meetings, we'll tweet them out. I've got Live to TikTok on my side, I've got Matt Walsh on my side, I've got Scott Nugent here on my side, star of What is the Woman. Scott's going to speak next, but we need to put a stop to this. And if you think you're just one person and you can't do anything, you're wrong, because I'm a nobody. I'm just a dad living in the suburbs in a house in a cul-de-sac with a front yard and a community garden that I built and some fruit trees. And I upended my life, and I did the traditional career arc from financial guy to sandwich board guy, standing around the street like a crazy person. So thank you very much. If you want to learn more about this, please reach out to me through my website, billboardchris.com. If you want to support me, there's a donate button on there. But I'm going to turn over the mic to